Whoops. Alright. Today we're looking at a diamond tracer. Chunked immediately. Unlucky. That was a really nice one clip. It was clean, it's beautiful. So that's unlucky. It happens. So even though your monkey failed his jump at the very beginning, your team won that out. That's pretty nice. There's just one kind of nitpicky thing, I guess. Your team won, so you know, whatever, right? But let's see. So here, ball goes up, monkey goes up. It's fine. You double blink immediately to this position, and you shoot the ball for a bit, right? The diva is up there, right? Ball's here, diva's up here, their Ana is up here on the bridge, and so is Lucio's up here, and their McCree is over there. I'm not really sure where their Genji is. I didn't get a good look, but so you're here underneath the bridge, which is up top, right? You end up blinking here with your last blink, and I mean, it ends up working for your team, but so how do I say this? You used up 2 blinks to get into a position that isn't that beneficial to you, right? Basically, the only person on the enemy team that you can actually target right now is the ball, and everyone else on the enemy team is on the high ground except for Genji. I'm not really sure where the Genji is. So when Tracer plays dive, when you play Tracer with dive on Numbani attacking first point, generally what Tracers do is they try to get up onto this high ground up here where everyone is. Generally the most normal route that most Tracers take is going under to this mega up here and then up the stairs and then all the way around up here, right? And then you could also contest high ground with your monkey and your ball, and you'd be able to help them. Or since you're already here, right, you can go all the way around and behind, but that would take a long time to do. So you end up making a decision to come here, which is fine. It's not necessarily. It's actually probably a good thing, except to eventually blink into safety. But honestly, right now, there's really, there's no one contesting you right now. You have, although this position might not be very useful, it's still, you know, you're still, quote-unquote, in their back line, sort of. Like, they know a Tracer's down there, and if they don't be careful, the Tracer might kill them. That thought's going to be in the enemy team's minds, and that's enough for them to play slightly differently, play more careful, which maybe play more forward, so they're not playing in your line of sight, which means they're playing in the rest of your team's line of sight, basically. And so instead of blinking immediately to the left, if you just stood your ground here, maybe shoot the ball some more, or shoot the diva, or maybe get some poke damage on the Ana to scare her, you would have definitely been able to get more value out of your position here. Because right now, you're not really doing anything. In fact, the entire enemy team is ignoring your presence back here. So there was really no need to go into safety so soon, right? I guess so Genji is up there too. So everyone on the enemy team was high ground except for the ball. So really, when you're in positions like these, you have to ask yourself, what can I do in this position? What is so that means can I scout for my team? Tell my teammates where the enemy team is. This is solo queue and no one's using their mic, so that's probably not as good of an option. Can you kill someone? Potentially kill someone? No, not really. You can get damage, poke damage onto the ball, but the Ana will just heal it up, or he'll roll away to a Mega. Maybe get a lucky one clip on the Lucio. Who knows? Can you harass the backline? Now that is something you can do. Like, although the Ana is up on high ground, and it's very hard for you in this position currently to contest her and harass her. If even just like standing back here and just occasionally shooting like pellets that deal like 1 damage each at her, right, from far range, that's enough to annoy her, for her to possibly turn around and be like, oh, there's a tracer in her back line, what should I do? And then she's turning around to look at you while your ball goes in and your monkey goes in on her, and she's like, what do I do? And then you end up killing her, or she drops and you can get an easy kill on her that way, or McCree comes, drops down, and tries to kill you, and you'd be able to see him coming, so you can blink away or recall away to dodge flash, or and then you'd be able to get him off high ground because he has really no real way other than walking all the way back up there to get back onto high ground. And then once he's on low ground, he becomes an easy target, right? And he can't really deal that much damage against your tanks, which are also on high ground eventually. So that's just something to think about, I guess. Back to what I was saying earlier about asking yourself what you can do. There's another thing you can ask yourself. If I stay in this position, how can I be punished, right? So the only person who can truly punish you, is McCree right now, and that's if he drops down onto high ground or onto low ground and flashes you, right? Contests you that way, or if he lands a couple nice shots on you, I guess that's another way he could contest you, but that's hard to do while tanks are jumping at him or near him. So really, you're actually pretty safe back here. You could stay here, like you come in here, and everyone's still just ignoring you, right? McCree does end up dropping, but he's not looking at you at all. You get a really nice kill on him, which is really nice, and then the rest of your team, cleans up. But so this is really nitpicking now, but so you mess up, it happens, but then you see she's low, but she nades herself, right? You still have 24 bullets in your gun, and you have 1 blink. So if you had right here, if you had kept shooting and stayed in this position, or like blink, how did I say this? So stay here, deplete your mag, your clip, whatever, and then you do a blink melee forward and hit her that way, right? If you had done that, she probably would have died, and you probably would have survived. You would have died sooner, because she does end up dying anyways, and you probably would have survived also, because then your team is right there. They would have been able to back you up. Instead, you decide to go, stop shooting, you start reloading, actually. Or no, you don't. You just go for the melee, right? She's won after that melee. If you had just shot her just a little bit more and then gone for the melee, she would be dead, and you'd probably maybe be alive. Because if I move this, who does end up killing you? Is it? It's her. She's the one who ends up, because you walk up to her and it looks like she lands a shot on you because you were. She might not have actually meant to do that. Actually, she lands a shot and melees. So if you had stayed further away, it would have been harder for her to hit that shot, and she wouldn't have been able to hit a melee, and you'd probably be able to kill her. Just something to think about, I guess. Sorry if I sound weird. I'm a little sick. Yeah, she hits you and gets the melee off on you, and that's why you died. If you had stayed away instead of trying to go forward closer to get the melee, you would have lived, most likely. So, let's see. What is the enemy team? So the enemy team is... Alright, so they have Ana, Lucio, Genji, McCree, Ball, and Diva. Right. So, you should always be pressing tab. Tab is like super useful. It tells you what ults your team has, how close your team is to ults, what your team is playing, you know, especially important in games like these where no one's really talking, to know what your teammate is playing and whether or not you'll be able to get backup, basically, sort of. But more importantly, you get to see what the enemy team is playing, right? So based on this lineup, you really only have like 2 targets that you can really go for, and that's McCree and Ana, right? It's really hard to kill Genji as... Well, it's harder than normal to kill Genji as Tracer. It's hard to kill Lucio as Tracer. Tanks, you know, they have a lot of health, right? So your 2 primary dive targets, since you are running dive, you do want to be diving, is either McCree or Ana. So, just keep that in mind, I guess. And I think you do end up going mostly for Ana and McCree most of the time, which is good. But so you're getting high ground. I do like that. That's good. It takes you a little bit to react to the ball being there. That's fine. So that's unlucky. Genji goes for you. So you see the Diva's low. You're like, oh, she's so low. I wanna demech her, right? Which is a good thought to have. But you also see Genji blade. You're like, oh, he's blading, but he's so far away. I should be fine, right? And then he dashes to you, and then you're like, oh, maybe I can kill him before he kills me. You still have 1 blink, and you have recall. So there's no reason for you to stay here and shoot him when you can just blink back or recall and then shoot him from that new location. Because yeah, the fall off distance on Tracer's guns is about 1 blink's distance. It's, I want to say, 3 meters. So you could blink back and still be doing full damage to him as long as you hit, you know, most of your shots. But instead you die, and had you blink back, you know, he gets bursted down like immediately. If you blink back, he would have died and you would have lived, and you would have been able to, you know, demech Diva or go and help your team do things. But instead you die. But now you're even, so, you know, this team still has a chance to win. They lost their main healer, one of their DPS, whereas you lost your 2 DPS. So your tanks could still do work and win this fight for you. Mercy tries to res you, but she gets stunned. It happens. Agree overextends, gets us killed, and I'm pretty sure now you guys can win this fight pretty easily. And you do. Which is nice. But could have been nicer if you lived. Just a thought. It's those little things, right? You might not think it's that important, but it's those little things that'll really help you rank up, sort of. Right. Okay, so McCree just got beat from the Lucio. You go for a flashy stick, and even if you had hit that stick, McCree would have still lived. So, in that situation, and he was high nooning, he could have, I don't know, killed you somehow if you had stayed around a little bit longer than you wanted to, or if he wasn't as greedy. So, probably not the best idea to do. It's totally acceptable. Just stay up here on high ground, out of sight of the McCree, and just spray down on the D.Va or on a even or ball, and help your team just deal damage, right? Ooh, almost. And time. So, another thing I want to point out. As soon as this happens, you start poking at the D.Va with your Winston, which is good. You want to be focusing the same targets your team is focusing. But, so your Mercy flies up. She's already half health. There's a nanoed ball right next to you and that Mercy. And he's going to go for the half health Mercy, of course. And you see him, you poke at him for a bit. Now Mercy has like a quarter of her health left after she got slammed. And the ball is clearly shooting at the Mercy. Instead of helping your Mercy out by, going forward and maybe like, you can, even though you only have 150 health, you can still help body block or at least like distract the ball from shooting and killing your Mercy. That's traditionally not Tracer's job, but you can still do it. There's no guarantee that your Mercy would live, but there's a higher chance of her living had you done that. Instead, you completely ignore her and go for the McCree, which you almost killed. If you had killed him, this would have been, 900 IQ godlike play, because then you probably could have won based on that pick. But because he's like most of the enemy team's damage, Genji, he can deal damage here and there, but he's mainly there for his blade. McCree's there. McCree's the main primary consistent damage. I don't know if this is before or after the McCree buff. So especially if it's after the McCree buff, then yeah, his damage is really, really high. So if you had been able to kill him here, that would have been great. You don't, which is fine. It's, But, so back to the usage of blinks part that I kind of talked about earlier, slightly, with the double blink thing. You shoot down him, you blink behind him, he rolls to the right. And I'm assuming you're like, oh, he's super low, I want to finish this kill. But, so you spend a blink to blink closer to him again. And you lose track of him, and the ball kills you, because you blinked right next to him. So, instead of blinking, forward here, had you just stayed there, you probably would have been able to reload and finish back, or blinked back. If you blinked back, you'd still have him in your line of sight, and you would be able to track him and finish him off, right? Or if you, instead of doing this blink, right, if you had just blinked that way, so that you're away from the mess that's going on right here, you wouldn't have lost him. Like, you'd be able to see him, that he's still right there, and you probably wouldn't have been in range for the ball to just melee you, because that's what happens. So, just another thing to keep in mind. Using blinks better, I guess, because your tracking is actually it's not the best, but it's actually not that bad. It's pretty good actually, especially for a diamond player. If you just improve like your game sense and your blink usage, stuff like that, you can easily hit masters with that. I mean, it looks like you're already pretty close though. Looks like you're playing with masters already. So, yeah, was it 42%, 44%? So that's really good. You've only been playing for 2 minutes, so you know it might go down later on. Probably will, but still, 44% is pretty good. So it's definitely not your mechanics necessarily holding you back from gaining SR. That was a nice kill. That evens things up actually. Their ball is going to get faster, or get back faster than your McCree, even though he died later and his spawn is further away. That's just because he's balling really fast. So as soon as you see that happen, this fight is even right now, but you're up 1 tank. Like they don't have their ball, and especially since you're running dive with Monkey, Tracer, ball, and I assume you have in McCree still. If they don't have the huge like 500, I think he has 500 health annoyance to like boop you guys around or jump on your back line. So basically now you can focus everything on attack now. You should be, as soon as you see that happening, you should be going in or telling your team to go in. Instead, you guys just kind of loiter around. Okay. So here, you think about going high ground, and you're like, nah. And there's really no reason not to go to high ground. If you had gone high ground, you would have been able to get more information, scout better. You'd be able to poke at them without having to be so close to them, I guess. So, not to mention, your Mercy was high ground, she would have been able to help you there. You blink here into... You spend a blink to get closer to a McCree and an Ana, when you could have just stayed here and done about the same damage to them. It would have been easier to track too because they're further away. So that's one thing. Your blink usage here is not ideal. And another thing is your ball. Let's see if I can. Your ball and so Winston and Ball are fighting Lucio Diva. Now, you doing this does end up taking up the McCree and the Ana and their ball's attention, and they put it all on you, which is good. If that's what you're going for, then I guess that's good. You draw attention to yourself, but had you been with your team instead, maybe you could kill Lucio faster or demake Diva, and then you can jump on the squishies in the back. I don't know. Just things to think about, I guess. But definitely this blink was not necessary. You could have walked and been able to deal almost the same amount of damage. Not to mention, by blinking forward, you put yourself into flashbang range of McCree, and that's very dangerous. You're also an easier target to hit, for Ana to hit with her sleep too. So that's also not that great. You do end up dodging the McCree's flash, which is good though. And then you properly disengage when the Diva and the Wrecking Ball come back for you, which is also good. So it looks like you're playing on the new patch though with the Diva Matrix. So the McCree buff is in the game. You might not have noticed this, but Ball just went by you. Your Monkey jumps in. That's Ball's smoke. So he's probably up to some mischief in your back line, which I get. It's not really your job to deal with the Ball, so just it's good to be more aware of your surroundings, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. So that was good. You stayed at range. And you didn't put yourself too close to the McCree that he could flash you. And you decide to walk around instead of using a blink to get around. That's very good things. You somehow survive being stunned by McCree. Not sure how. It was a good stick. So that blink wasn't necessary. You could have just shot him. He's a 1. You weren't punished for it, but you put yourself in line of sight of the respawns, enemies respawning from here, without any blinks. And I think you had recall still, so you would have, yeah, you still had recall, so you would have survived. But, just something to think about. You can shoot at that Lucio in that situation. You might not deal that much damage, but it, you know, doesn't hurt, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, to shoot the Lucio instead of just looking at him. You outplayed that McCree so hard there. That was a good dive. You and your monkey jumped on the 2 squishies and 3 squishies and cleaned up. That was good. That was a good dive. It was a good stick. Although probably wasn't necessary considering your team already killed three of them. And so it was a 6v2. So, but I mean, it's post bomb, so it's not that big a deal. It's a nice blink. Did you? So you blink once, and then you blink again, and now you have no blinks. Instead of blinking again, he already used flash. So there's no fear of being flashed anymore. You could have just turned around when you were here instead of blinking again and just shot at him, and he would have died the same. And you would have then had another blink still, and you're about to get another one as well. So then you would have had essentially 2 blinks compared to the 0/1 blink that you would have now, right in front of the enemy spawn, which is kind of scary. Still have recall though, so it's fine. We use that to get out. But had you not done that blink backwards, you would have had 2 blinks essentially to get out. You could have gone, you know, this direction here. You could have blinked here or blinked that way towards their spawn to safety, rather than having to use up recall, which is important, you know, long cooldown compared to blinks, which are, you know, they come back super quick. So just things to think about. So you come out of you go into that hallway, right, to get away from the hog, and then you kind of just walk around for a couple seconds in here. So you're safe from hog now. You're not really sure if he's still looking at you. He might be chasing, so you come out here. You see Genji. I guess you're hiding from McCree High Noon. You don't know where that is, so it's fine. But I do want you to notice your entire team is dead now. You lost your 2 tanks. The enemy spawn is right there, so they're going to be getting back a lot faster than your team is. There's still like what, 4 or 5 people alive on the enemy team. You have 1 blink, no recall, 5 bullets, 6 bullets left in your gun. You have pulse, but 18 health. There's not really that much you can do. Even the best tracer in the world, Defran, Kabaji, whatever, Sabiobi, they wouldn't be able to, even if they were only playing against diamonds, right? They probably wouldn't be able to 1v5 them either. So in this situation, instead of staying around so long and stalling the cart, because like you're not going to be able to move it anyways. So it's not like if you were on defense, then there would have been a reason for you to do that, because then you could have stalled cart. You're dying on cart, which denies the attacking team payload distance. But since you're on attack yourself, all you accomplished there was give the other team ult charge from the damage you dealt them, like their healer's ult charge, and you staggered yourself. So now you can already see some teammates are already starting to respawn, and when they start respawning and they're walking back, that's when you die. That's really not good. Because now, like your Zen, he's just waiting around. Your entire team is back alive. You're the only one who's dead still. That's precious, seconds that you don't have to necessarily be wasting. Also, had you stayed, if you just disengaged and hid in that little mini room you were in earlier, or somewhere around there, maybe you could have gone for a C9 on the enemy team. Like they push up, try to finish it. That's unfortunate. But maybe you could have attempted to backcap them. Something that tracers do pretty well, but it's alright. I won't belabor the point any longer. So let's see okay. So they have, instead of the Orisa Zarya they had earlier, they have Monkey Hog. And you have a Hog Reaper instead of the Monkey Ball you had earlier. Your accuracy is still 40% by the way, which is pretty good. So it's clearly not your mechanics holding you back from ranking up. Yeah. This is not the most ideal team comp to be going with for this last point on Numani, but it's workable. This is a ladder, it's whatever. But what's more important is that they have Monkey Hog instead of Orisa Zarya. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Hog especially is another big obstacle to you. His hook, more specifically, it's another way for the enemy team to punish you. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So if I were you, I probably would swap off Tracer now. Maybe go like a Hanzo or Ash, someone who could do more to their front line, I guess, because especially this last point on Numani, it's really hard to go to play Tracer to the best that you can, especially since you don't have any dive tanks anymore. So it's really, you don't have any dive characters at all actually. So it's really only going to be you by yourself in the enemy team. When they have a sleep dart, a stun, and another stun for you. So things to think about, I guess. was good. You disengaged from a last team fight, and you didn't stagger yourself. That's good. And you punish their overextending monkey. That's also good. So now you're up 1. You should definitely be trying to go in here instead of staying up here. Like, even if you had just gone out on the balcony, you would have been able to see a lot more, get more information. Even if you don't do anything with that information, just by having that information, you'd be able to make more decisions quicker. That's a really nice pulse bomb. Those are generally pretty hard to hit, but that was nice. But I do want to point out that you kind of didn't really do anything this fight. The only thing you did was kill the McCree. Like, your team pretty much does everything else for you in this fight. Like, your tanks, your Hog and Brig are fighting people on point. Instead of continuing to help them, you go on this flank route, which allows you to get the pick on the McCree, which is really great. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you had stayed with your team instead of going on this flank route, because this pulse is really hard to hit, and you hit it, which is amazing. You know, that's awesome. But had you not hit it, then this entire trip would have been completely worthless. Right. That's really nice. But really, it's your team that's killing everyone, right? I believe it was Hog doing most of the work there, actually. Hog killed the Winston. You got the pick on the McCree, but then the rest of your team cleans up for you. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know, what am I trying to say? The amount of value that you got as Tracer that last fight was very low. So I guess you want to be thinking about, because Overwatch, you can say Overwatch is a game of like value, and if you can outvalue the enemy team, you generally win, and that's generally true. You weren't really doing much as Tracer there. Like, your team pretty much won that 5v6, and that's because you decided to go on a flank route instead of. And honestly, it worked out, so it's hard to say whether or not it. Oh, I'm just rambling now. I don't know. Sorry. Still new at this. I don't know. Yeah. So you're like, I don't know, you're waiting to shoot instead of just shooting immediately. Like, you wait until the monkey lands to shoot, when you could have just shot him as he was going. Like, same with the ball. You could have shot him as he was rolling up, and it might not have dealt that much damage, but it's just that little bit extra that would have helped. Yeah. I do like that. Going out, trying to get more information with scouting. That might not have been your intention, but that was good to do. Especially since you saw recall that you could use in multiple blinks. So, okay. This is the last time I'm going to say anything about blink usage. I'm sure you've gotten the idea already. This is all fine. But you blink here, when you could have just walked. It's really just nitpicky. And, okay. Jumping down here, though. There's really no need to jump down. Especially since you're not a character like Genji or Hanzo who can wall climb. You end up getting punished for it, too. Once you jump down, it's much easier to get from high ground to low ground than it is to get from low ground to high ground, right? So by jumping down, you're basically giving up a huge advantage in high ground, and if you just stood there instead of jumping down, you would have been able you would have been able to track the Lucio easier because you don't have to move as much. You don't really have to dodge anything. It's really hard for them to shoot up at you. You could have poked the Lucio. You could have poked the Hog when he walked by. You would be applying a lot more pressure there than you are into here, right? Here, you're not really doing anything. Here, the only time you can actually do something here is after they've already come in. But if you stay up there, you can be poking at them before they come in. And so you get more value that way because you can potentially get a pick that would stop the fight. That would just like force them to back up and regroup, right? That's if you were up at the high ground. But you staying back here means there's nothing you can do until they push in. And if they push in, that's already half the battle, right? As defenders, yes, you're defending the point, but also you want to be trying to do everything you can to the best of your ability to stop them from pushing. And basically you're giving up a lot of free space by dropping down and backing up here. If you had dropped down and immediately started going back high ground, resetting high ground, that would have been a lot better, because then you could have, sure, you wouldn't be much help on the stairs over here, but you're not much help here either. You're not really doing anything. You're literally just waiting for them to come in. And you want to try to avoid doing that if at all possible. And you'd be able to contest Genji up there too, who's still up there. And you wouldn't have died to this quickly. So try not to give up space so freely, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Because had you stayed up on high ground, the enemy team would have had to put a lot of resources into dealing with you, or if they just ignored you, would have been able to drop down on their Ana or something, or stay up there and just one-clip her from up there or something like that, right? Instead, you gave up the space that you had already claimed and just gave it free to the enemy. And you want to try to avoid doing that if you can, basically. The good thing is, all of you guys got good spawn, so Mercy's not healing you. That's unlucky. That's really funny, actually. Almost get the kill on the Lucio. Almost. Do you? Oh, you do. You do get a kill on Lucio. Poor ball. That's a good trade, actually. You guys end up winning, even though you lost 3. That's pretty great. And your ball's popping off. It's also pretty great. Oh my goodness. Okay. That's also a really nice stick. Those sticks are super risky to go for, though. Because, well, they're just really generally hard to hit, but you hit it, and that's huge. That allowed your team to win that fight because they lost their round off. You saw the McCree and you blinked away immediately because you knew he was going to flash. That's also really good. He doesn't have flash anymore. You could just straight up duel him. You have blinks. You don't have to be so scared of him. You bait his flash again. He's probably feeling really stupid. It's really... You do end up outplaying it, but it took you a lot longer than it would have if you had just like... blunk closer. Use your blink to close the gap and get a better angle to one-clip him. Or to just, you know, kill him in general. Instead of blinking away. Because you knew he doesn't have flash anymore, so... Once McCree's lose flash, it's really easy to kill. They're super easy targets to kill. And it looks like they swap off McCree for Hanzo? Is that what they're doing? No. They just lost to Genji, got Hanzo instead. Alright. So... That is a huge stun, actually. Okay, so I'm sure you do that, the crouching thing, because you've seen a lot of pros do it. The reason they do it, pros and like high GM tracers do it, the reason they do it is to muffle their footsteps, so the enemy team can't really hear as well where you're coming from. But Lucio and Hog just died. You know no one's... You can see Liana backing out, right? So there's really no point to do that. No one was on cart. So instead of going for this flank, instead of blinking back, had you just kept pursuing this flank, like you could have kept going, maybe looked for a stick on the Hanzo or the Ana, or even gone all the way around to their spawn, and then like by the time you do that, their Hog and Ball will probably be on card contesting, and then the Ana probably wouldn't know that you're back there, and you could get an easy stick on her or an easy one clip while she's not looking. Lots of options if you go back this way, because you're like actively doing something instead of like backing out, and like because you're getting no value right now. You can't see the enemy. You can't really like. Sure, you go for this flank, but then you come inside. You still can't see them. Lucio comes for you and catches you out, and somehow doesn't kill you. Going back for high ground. So staying on high ground, which is good. Are you gonna get another instinct stick? No. Yes, yes you are. Okay, alright. I see you. Alright, alright. So instead of backing up to your team, you can stay up front. Like, next to your Hog. Like, in this room, you're safe. For the most part. Or you can go for a flank again. Right? You keep backing up, and you keep playing back. I guess, when you're playing defense, that recall probably wasn't necessary. Probably could have just blinked back, but like you're waiting until the fight starts to flank and go look for potential picks, but you don't really need to do that. You can do that while the enemy team, like after you've already won a fight, while the enemy team is regrouping. You could go on this flank and like just stay here and wait for them to come, the push up. And that way it'd be a lot safer of a flank, because you don't have to worry about them jumping on your team and your team possibly having no answers for the jump and, you know, getting overwhelmed or whatever. You don't have to worry about your team fighting the other team 5v6 if you flank earlier, is what I'm saying, I guess. Genji finds you. Valkyrie gets a nice stun off. Oh, you almost got him. And he does manage to finish you off this time. Yeah, it happens. So I'm guessing by the fact that there's still stuff left in the video that you don't win this fight. You should be able to finish off the hog at least here. Oh, unlucky, unlucky. It's alright. So, what is your team comp? So they're solo taking hog, like you were when you were attacking. And they have 3 super squishy mobile dive DPS. Okay. You have ball, you have hog. So just from looking at these team comps, I can already tell your Zen and your Ana are going to be struggling very hard to do their jobs of healing you guys, because there's going to be a Tracer, there's going to be a Genji, there's going to be a Sombra on them pretty much 24/7. And I guess there's not really that much you can do about it besides playing with your team more, but it's just how it's going to be. So you should keep that in mind when you see the team comps like this, that A, maybe I shouldn't be as aggressive because Ana and Zen aren't going to be able to heal me as much, or B, maybe I should play back more so I could, you know, counter dive, help peel for them if one of the enemy DPS tried to go for them or something like that. Your ball does switch to Winston though, which is good. That shield is going to be super nice, and there's a lot of squishies that you could kill pretty easily. Blink usage. I won't go back and show it to you. I'm sure I've made that point clear enough. That's nice. You react. It's a Sombra hack. You don't get hacked. Do you get a stick? Oh, so close, so close. Is that Tracer I was talking about? On your side. Okay, I do want to talk about this. Sorry, I said I wouldn't talk about it anymore, but you blink forward and you recall immediately. What was the point of doing that? I just wanted to point that out. Shooting your teammates won't make them heal you more, unfortunately. They just have the awareness of a potato. Sorry, the translocator. Sombra's an easy kill now if you can catch her out, but you don't. That's fine. So you're sitting here staring at that mini health pack. You're like, huh, this is a nice health pack. That's a nice silhouettes of my teammates. It's a nice payload silhouette too. If you had instead, like, you go in, maybe, I guess you're waiting for EMP, but even if you're EMP'd up here, there's really not much they can do to you. So if you had just been standing up here on this balcony from the start instead of waiting in that corner, you would have been able to get more value from your existence, because then you'd be able to see where the enemies are. You'd be able to make a mental map of who's where, a lot sooner. Because right now, that's what you're doing right now. You're like, oh, there's a Nano Genji right here. I don't know, there's a soldier, whatever. I don't know what that is. Hog. See, like, you come into the fight after it's basically over. If you had stayed up there, you would have been able to participate in the fight as it's starting. right from the beginning of the fight, basically, instead of at the end of the fight, or at the middle of the fight even. It's just little things like these. You're just not getting as much value as you could be, and that's probably what's holding you back. So this situation is like the situation earlier on attack. You're trying to 1v5, except you're actually doing a good job of stalling the cart and denying the enemy team payload distance. So, because you're on defense, that's a good idea, a good thing to do. But not so good to do if you want to attack. You win. Now, medals, stats like medals, they don't really mean that much. But you really didn't do as much as you could have done for your team in this game. I guess that's a good way to put it. You spend a lot of time just not really doing anything. Even you don't have to be shooting at the enemy or getting a pick to count as getting value. Even just seeing where standing on high ground where they can't get to you and just seeing where people are before the fight begins, rather than getting to the high ground, hiding inside and then getting to the high ground after the fight broke out. Because when you're up there as the fight begins, you can see everything happening as the fight begins, and then you can choose. You have more time basically to choose a good target to jump onto, or to even just stay up there and just spray down, versus getting there using blinks even. Sorry, excuse me. Using blinks even to get to the high ground, like here. Here. EMB breaks out, you blink. That's one extra blink you could have saved if you were just standing up here from the beginning of the fight, right? So, I guess the biggest things to take away from this and to improve on are cooldown usage. There's a lot of situations where, that blink could be avoided. You don't have to use that blink if you're just standing there in the first place. And then I guess the second thing is just be doing more. When you're just sitting in a room hiding, or even there's a lot of times where you just aren't really doing anything. You're rotating, you're moving around the map, but at awkward times, I guess, because you could do those rotations. Those rotations are good rotations, actually. You should be going on flanks. That's definitely a very valid way of playing Tracer. You're just not really. You're doing those flanks at the wrong times, I guess I should say. Well, not necessarily the wrong times, but there are better times to do it. For example, I can find it. It's probably closer to here. When you're on defense, I pointed it out earlier. Yeah, here. Not here, but it was earlier. You were over there, you blink here, and then you blink back, and then you rotate all the way around here. As the fight's starting, you do that as the fight's starting. If you do that before the fight started, because you won the previous fight, you have all this empty space, free space that you could go into without any worry of the enemy catching you out or anything like that. So it's just little things like that. You might not think is that important, but it really is. Those little things are the types of things that'll help you get better, essentially. you're not getting better mechanically, but you're getting better game sense wise also, I guess. But yeah, so cooldown usage, don't use blinks when you don't have to, don't recall when you don't have to. Flank, you can flank when nothing's happening instead of flanking when something's happening, because then when you're going on those flanks you're doing nothing and there's nothing. That's just how it is. So do nothing when nothing's happening, so that you don't get punished when you do nothing when something is happening. You didn't. That never happened in this game, but it could very possibly happen in other games. And don't try to 1v6. Like, if your entire team's dead and you're on attack, there's no reason to stay around any longer than you have to. Just back out and get a, like, you would get more value if you just disengage and stay near the enemy, like, without instead of dying and having to make your team wait for you to get back before going in again. So those three things: cooldown management, better usage of time, and don't stagger yourself. Other than that, honestly, your mechanics aren't terrible. They could be better. It can always be better, though. So your sticks, oh my goodness, your sticks are insane, dude. How many sticks did you have at the end there? At the end of this game, you had 6. So it's not the highest of numbers, but you hit off, you hit some pretty nice sticks there this game. So good job, and hopefully this review helps you improve hit masters. I assume you're close, considering you're playing with masters already, probably 3,400, somewhere around there. If not, I'm sorry, I guess. If you want to send another video to me, feel free to do so. I'll be more than happy to review it again. Yeah, thanks for watching, I guess.